What drives a man to kill not once, but twice in the span of just a few hours? What kind of darkness lives inside someone who, after committing one murder, casually walks the streets and strikes again? Tonight, we explore the chilling case of Wade Wilson, a man who shocked an entire Florida community when he strangled two innocent women in October of 2019, allegedly, just for the sake of killing. This is not just a story of crime. It's a story of loss, of horror, and of justice nearly 5 years in the making. Cape Coral, Florida, a quiet coastal city known for its canals, palm trees, and suburban peace. But in October 2019, that peace was shattered when two women were found dead under eerily similar circumstances within hours of each other. 35-year-old Kristine Melton was discovered lifeless inside her own home. Just hours later, Diane Ruiz, a 43-year-old mother of two, was found dead in an empty lot. The connection between the two deaths wasn't immediately obvious, but the brutality in both cases raised suspicions. Both victims had been strangled, their lives taken in deeply personal, violent ways. Police didn't know it yet, but they were about to uncover a predator hiding in plain sight. The killer, Wade Wilson. At the center of this horror was Wade Wilson, a then 25-year-old man with a criminal history and a disturbing mindset. According to police reports, Wilson met Kristine Melton at a bar on the evening of October 6, 2019. They chatted, drank, and eventually, Kristine invited him back to her place. What happened next was a nightmare. The very next morning, Kristine was dead, strangled in her own home. But Wade Wilson wasn't finished. Later that same day, Wilson was driving when he saw Diane Ruiz walking home from work. He pulled up beside her and asked for directions. Innocently, Diane got into the car. She never made it home. Wilson later admitted to strangling her as well. But in a horrifying twist, prosecutors say he also ran her over with the car, a shocking act of brutality against a woman who had done nothing but offer help. The arrest and confession. Cape Coral police acted quickly. Suspicion turned to evidence, and Wilson was arrested shortly after Diane's body was discovered. What came next was even more chilling. During a jailhouse interview, Wade Wilson showed no remorse. According to prosecutors, he allegedly told investigators those words, cold and unapologetic, would echo through the courtroom years later. The trial. For the sake of killing, after years of delays, pre-trial motions, and legal maneuvering, Wade Wilson's murder trial finally began in 2024. Cape Coral Police Chief Anthony Sizemore attended the proceedings alongside the families of the two victims. He later said, "This afternoon in the Lee County Courthouse, I sat with the families of Diane Ruiz and Kristine Melton as the verdict was read. Wade Wilson was found guilty on all counts. In his closing arguments, Assistant State Attorney Andreas Gardner painted a terrifying picture for the jury. This case was about killing for the sake of killing. Strangulation is the epitome of life slipping through someone's hands. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was, according to prosecutors, murder as an act of desire, a need to control, to destroy, to kill. The defense. Drugs and mental state. Wilson's defense attorney, Lee Hollander, didn't try to claim innocence. "I'm not arguing insanity," he told the court. "I'm arguing the state is claiming premeditation. I'm arguing he's whacked out of his mind for any of this." The defense leaned heavily on Wilson's drug use and erratic behavior, suggesting that his actions were not premeditated, but the result of an altered mental state. But the jury didn't buy it. On June 12, 2024, after nearly 5 years of waiting, the jury returned its verdict: guilty on all counts. Wade Wilson now faces the possibility of the death penalty, as he was convicted on 2 counts of first-degree murder. The sentencing phase is scheduled to begin on June 20th, and the families of Kristine Melton and Diane Ruiz will once again sit in the courtroom, hoping that justice, finally, will be served in full. What makes a man kill for no reason? What drives someone to commit 2 murders in a single day and then say he'd do it again? The case of Wade Wilson is a chilling reminder that true evil can walk among us, undetected, until it strikes. But through the tireless efforts of law enforcement and the bravery of the victims' families, justice has found its way. Let us never forget Kristine Melton and Diane Ruiz, daughters, sisters, mothers, and friends whose lives were stolen far too soon. On June 20th, 2024, the courtroom filled once again. The air was heavy as the sentencing phase of Wade Wilson's trial was set to begin. For the families of Diane Ruiz and Kristine Melton, it was another chapter in a nightmare that had already lasted nearly 5 years. Now the question wasn't if Wilson was guilty, it was what punishment he deserved. Should he spend the rest of his life behind bars, or should the state of Florida sentence him to death? During sentencing, impact statements from the victims' families painted a heartbreaking picture of the pain left behind. A daughter of Diane Ruiz, barely a teenager at the time of her mother's death, took the stand. Through tears, she told the jury, "She was my best friend. She never got to see me graduate, never got to meet her grandkids, and I never got to say goodbye." Kristine Melton's brother also addressed the court. "He didn't just take her life, he took all our peace. I still wake up expecting her to call. He killed a part of our family that can never be replaced." These testimonies were raw, emotional, and devastating, and they served a purpose: to remind the court that these women were not just statistics, they were loved, they were people, and their lives mattered. As the jury listened to the families, the prosecution brought in a different kind of witness, a forensic psychologist who had reviewed Wade Wilson's background and behavior. What they revealed was disturbing. Wilson had a history of antisocial behavior, drug addiction, and violent tendencies from a young age. He had been in and out of jail, often for theft, assault, and drug possession. But what stood out most was his lack of remorse. In jail, he reportedly laughed about the murders, told guards he liked the feeling. One deputy testified that Wilson said, "It's not like they were anyone important." These weren't the words of someone who felt regret. They were the words of a man who saw human life as disposable. The psychologist concluded that Wilson fit the criteria of a clinical psychopath: no empathy, no guilt, and a willingness to kill again. During their final plea to the jury, prosecutors didn't hold back. Assistant State Attorney Gardner stood before them and said, "This man strangled 2 women with his bare hands. He looked into their eyes as they died. He told police he'd do it again. There is no redemption. There is no rehabilitation. The only justice is death." The courtroom fell silent. No more words were needed. Days later, the jury returned with their decision. Wade Wilson was sentenced to death. For the families, it wasn't closure. Nothing could bring back their daughters, sisters, and mothers, but it was accountability. Cape Coral Police Chief Anthony Sizemore said in a press conference, "This verdict doesn't heal the pain, but it honors the victims. Our team worked tirelessly to bring this killer to justice, and today, justice was done."